7, we'll talk to the Telegraph reporter who's been to meet him and get his view on that. 6:54, it's a happy 10th birthday to this.
Hello. Poke! Edward Baxter! It's me, Todd from school! Do you want to be my friend, confirm or ignore? Alright, great! Okay, are you in a relationship?
I've got to...
Is it complicated? It's complicated. Okay, well, what are you looking for? Friendship, dating, whatever you can get.
Facebook, as described by BBC Three's comedy sketch show Idiot of Ants. It's 10 years since you started poking, writing on walls, liking things and defriending people. It now has over 1 billion monthly active users, and last year Facebook featured on the Fortune 500 list for the first time with a revenue of more than £3 billion. So this morning we're asking how Facebook has changed the world, for good or bad. Has it changed your life in some way? Back in 2009, Jon Morter started a campaign on the social network to get Rage Against the Machine to Christmas #1. You might remember it caused quite a stir here on 5 Live Breakfast.
I won't do what you tell me! 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 I won't do what you tell me!
Sorry, we needed to get rid of that because that suddenly turned into something we were not... we were expecting it and asked them not to do it, and they did it anyway. So buy Joe's Records.
You know, we had more complaints about Sheila saying buy Joe's Records than we did about the bad language.
Seriously.
Many more complaints.
Masterfully dealt with by Sheila. Let's speak to John, who set up that Facebook page. Morning, John.
Good morning. That brings back memories.
You got us into all sorts of trouble.
I apologise. Years later.
when you started this, had you ever been involved in any kind of campaign before?
Yeah, well, we jokingly, we did it the year before as well for Rick Astley, which is the campaign that everyone forgets, thankfully. But we did it as a joke, but then we realised that, well, hang on a minute, you know, this has got some potential here. Something like this could really happen. So the year that I did Rage Against the Machine, it was really more just sort of honing some skills here and there and seeing if we could make it really big. And boy, yeah, it went huge, didn't it?
And what was the difference? Having a forum like Facebook, how did that change the sort of impact that you could have?
Oh, I mean, it was essential. Without Facebook, it would never have happened. Facebook was really where all the people were. It was where everybody had joined, and you know, it was just, it was like I could cherry pick people. And a normal internet forum or even MySpace, you just couldn't have done that really. Especially with Facebook's groups facility that they had, which was brilliant, absolutely brilliant for doing something like that.
What about Twitter? How does it compare?
Well, my own personal opinion, I think they're chalk and cheese. I love Twitter. I use Twitter daily. I was on Twitter just now to tell everyone that I was about to come on your show, actually, rather than Facebook. But Twitter is more for me, it's where I get my news from. It's where I get instant updates, whereas Facebook is more where I speak to my own friends rather than brands or for news, if that makes sense.
In terms of how all this impacted on your own life, Simon Cowell even offered you a job after the campaign, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He actually phoned me up and congratulated me, which was amazing. And we had a great chat, to be fair. And he offered me a job, and my wife Tracy, who was helping me at the time. But you've got to bear in mind, we had 1.6 million people in a Facebook group, so we couldn't turn around and say, right, thanks very much, guys, we're off to go and work for Simon Cowell. You know, there's no way that was going to happen. But I was very fortunate. I had quite a lot of job offers.
He's Machiavellian, isn't he? Machiavellian, isn't he? Clever, trying to get you on board.
And what about the future? Do you think Facebook can keep hold of its younger users? We hear increasingly of teenagers turning to things like Snapchat.
That's a good point. I think that, for example, my son, my eldest, is 15, and he's one of the only people in his class that is not on Facebook because me and his mum are on there, and his gran, and his great-grandmother. So that's an interesting point. I think Facebook's great at continuously changing and moving, and I think it's got to keep doing that because you're right. Yeah, youngsters are just. There's a lot of my son's friends that are not on Facebook. They just don't want to be on there. So
Well, Jon,
it's interesting to see how that's going to pan out.
it's really nice to catch up with you again. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on again.
Jon Morter, who was behind that Rage Against the Machine campaign. Here's Susan.
Pretty decent day to come across the British Isles today. Some rain first thing across Scotland and the northeast of England, but